Hello, in this video I want to give a look into the buying process for a first-time saber buyer through Ultrasabers, as well as an impressions and review of the Empress and Initiate that I ended up getting. I grew up a huge Star Wars fan after being introduced in the mid-90s, and I got these back when I was in middle school and dug them out to compare with some of the new toys that I got recently. I made my purchase on Ultrasabers during a promotion that threw free bonuses depending on how much money you spent. They seem to have different kinds of deals all the times, but we'll get into that later. What initially drew me to Ultrasabers was it was the only place I could find that had a high quality saber based on Rey's final lightsaber from The Rise of Skywalker at the end. I really liked that design, and I absolutely wanted to have one. It was available in different colors and styles, and I opted for the flat black with no engraving. Buying the saber was actually a little overwhelming at first. There were just so many options. I was already sold on the Empress model, but after making the selection for basic sound, I was prompted to select my main blade color, and I chose to add Flash on Clash. This is a pretty cool option that gives you a sound effect and a flashing different color whenever there's a hit. You can also press the button for a clashing lock. Since the Empress design already wasn't perfectly screen accurate, I took some liberties with my color choices too. I have a very Sithy red blade that flashes violet on the Flash on Clash. I really like the look and the imagery of the red and blue flashing light, and it really reminds me of the clash between Rey and Kylo at the end of Force Awakens. The next decision was between the Ultra Edge and the regular blade. The Ultra Edge has kind of like a solid, translucent white film over the whole thing, which distributes the light more evenly and gives it a distinct look that you may or may not like depending on the color. The regular blade only has a thin reflective film, and then the blade has kind of like a more visually textured look to it with varying degrees of brightness, giving it a depth to the look. It seems to be more of a toss-up of personal preference on the blade style. There are some other goodies and add-ons you could also include. I opted for a blade plug to add to my order because it looked neat, and I needed to push myself over just a little bit to qualify for the free saber in the promotion that I was in. I guess now we can finally look at the Empress in detail itself. I love the design of this hilt. It's definitely not a perfect recreation, but I think all the elements are nailed and it looks really great. The spikes at the top look awesome. They are blunted off a little bit at the tip for safety. However, the edges still are pretty sharp as it comes out. The emitter matches the design, including the ported little windows at the bottom. And it even has the activation switch from the movie. However, it does not function as an activation switch. It's simply there to look cool. It does not line up with the emitter pieces, but I think that's fine that it doesn't line up perfectly. I wish it would move, but again, it at least looks great. It also feels wonderful in the hand, balances great. There's a center of mass with a 32-inch mid-grade blade that is just in from the top of the emitter, which makes it great for just spinning around. It has a really high-quality feel, and pieces fit together extremely well. I am very pleased with this hilt. I like it very much. It does fit much better for a single hand compared to two-handed, but in the single hand, it fits very well, and I like it a lot. The bonus saber that I got as part of my deal was an Initiate in silver, and it has a 24-inch Ultra Edge mid-grade blade with no sound. I was surprised by how much I ended up liking this, despite it feeling like the little sister to the Empress. Because it's smaller, it's easier to kind of twirl around indoors without hitting anything, and the small size also gives it a nice little balance as well. And because there's no sound, it's also not obnoxious to play around with when others are home, or in my case, when my little one is sleeping. I am surprisingly pleased with this Initiate, despite its size, simplicity, and lack of features, and will probably be picking up more of these stunt sabers in the future. And while it doesn't have the wow factor of kind of a full-size featured Empress that I have, it's still pretty awesome to have, and I look forward to having more of that type. But now let's talk about the dark horse of the last several months for Ultrasabers, which is shipping and customer service. I originally placed my order on June 14th. About a week later, I emailed their customer service about changing my Flash on Clash color from orange to violet. No response. Emailed again a few days later, and again, no response. I popped onto the Ultrasabers forums and posted there to see if anyone else was kind of having similar issues, and lots of other buyers were airing their grievances about how slow shipping has been and the complete and total lack of communication across the board. Apparently, due to the rush of popularity in the beginning of last year, notably following The Mandalorian and Rise of Skywalker, they just became really, really backlogged on orders. They also seem to continually run promotion after promotion after promotion. All of them have been very, very good with either significant discounts on price or throwing in a whole bunch of free stuff. And so in the midst of all of this popularity, they kept racking up orders, and were struggling to keep up. And then in the midst of all this, it also happens to be 2020, which means that we are in the midst of the biggest global pandemic that the world has seen in 100 years. So supplies from outside the country would be difficult to come by. Non-essential work would be put on pause, and when things were reopened, then working conditions needed to be accommodate health and safety guidelines for distancing and contact. And if that wasn't enough, then there was also some kind of mishap in their email system that deleted all of their emails from before a certain date. I believe that was in March or April. And so it was definitely before I placed my order, but they're still making up all of those orders from their backlog. So there was this kind of combination of horror stories, people waiting 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks more, without so much as a response to any of their emails. It's currently mid-July, and a number of people had said that they've not received orders that they placed back as early as April. So I guess I was one of the lucky ones, because around the 4-week mark, I tried to email them again and got a response within almost an hour that my color change was good to go and that my saber should be fabricated and ready to ship in the next 1 to 2 business days. It actually shipped out the next day and arrived 3 days later. So I could imagine that the individual setbacks will be based on whatever supplies they have available to them. And I definitely consider myself one of the lucky ones to have waited only 4 weeks. All in all, I am very, very happy with my sabers now that they are actually finally in my hands. As I make this, they are on their 3rd back-to-back-to-back promotion since I began shopping. So I imagine these problems and delays will probably continue for at least a little while. All I know is that eventually I was taken care of. I did receive my product, and what I got was absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it, and I will be buying more.